So based on the sort of what we talked about at the beginning, so there was this dominant force at the beginning, so Sims, but obviously that's now the actual percentage of the marketplace they have is obviously reduced.
Yeah.
What do you think? So obviously there's lots of conversation now about Sims is up for sale, Capita trying to sell Sims. So what do you think is going to be the impact on that on the general market? And do you see this as an opportunity, or do you see this as, there's going to be a pause on the market because everyone's going to wait? What do you think is going to happen? How do you think it's going to pan out? It's hard to obviously.
I'll give you my crystal ball, and however many accurate points I make is one drink each. So
okay.
I don't know if this is right or wrong, but this is my view. So I think it splits by time horizon. The longer you go out, the harder it is to predict. But in the short term, there's probably more churn in the market because there's more uncertainty, because we don't know who the new owner is going to be. We don't know what they're going to do with the product. Are they going to bring more support in-house to capture more value? Are they going to bring in a new MIS, like they're going to ditch Sims 8 entirely and bring in a new one from abroad or something? Are they going to increase pricing? Like, we just don't know. But there is uncertainty around all that. So people will start to at least be like, well, because I don't know that, I will look at others, including hopefully us, because we're a known quantity. Like, you can see me, I'm here, I kind of will say what I want to do around all those things, and you can take my view on it. So yeah, we're more of a known quantity. Like, we migrated 1,000 Sims schools, so hopefully we know what we're doing. So that's short term. Medium term, hard to say, but like, let's say I think there'll be more mass retendering. So schools are going to move away from Sim 7. That's for sure, because that's the strategy of Sims right now. So and due to contractual issues, that's not an automatic upgrade. Certainly not at an LA or a MAT level, and not at a school level either. So if we do our job right, keep on making customers happy and successful, hopefully that means people just take a look at us and see what we have to offer, and then make a decision, whatever decision they want to make. And the interesting thing on that is the mass retraining of schools across the country. So like, you're going to have like 15,000 schools who need to retrain in a completely new way. So that's going to be a really big opportunity for support partners and people who really get change management and integrators, and so that's going to be really interesting. And for us, if we do our job right. And then long term, I guess that all stabilizes at some point. If assuming that a new owner can stop that slide away from Sims, maybe they put in a new product, or they get Sims 8 out there, which itself is a new product, then let's just say all this churn kind of dies down in I don't know how long that'll be. And then you have a more competitive market. That's going to be good for schools. Competitive markets typically divide into like ratios, like 3 to 2 to 1. So you have a big one, but not owning everything. Like, at the moment, Sims probably has too much. I've got a lot of respect for what Sims has done and what Phil's done, but it will probably be more competitive. Then you have a medium one and a small one, and then a couple of very small niche players. And then you'll have schools will have choice. They'll have more innovation. They'll have more pricing keenness. So it should work out better for schools, and that's not a bad thing. That's kind of ultimately why I got into it. So we always thought, actually, if our only impact was to make Sims do things differently and maybe give a better deal to schools, we'd have actually succeeded. So that would be no bad thing.
No, I agree. And my view on it as well is very much about, I think, again, I've obviously loved Sims when I was there and so on, but ultimately I think there's a lack of innovation sometimes in the MIS market, and I think that needs to be kicked off by more competition. I think you're absolutely right. I think that has to happen.
It keeps everyone honest as well. Like, if we're not doing a good job, we'll just fade into the distance, and that should be the case. Like, that's what keeps things creative and keeps everyone on their toes, and it means that schools get good value. So I'm happy that I'll hold myself to my own standards as well.
No, I agree. I think you're right as well. I think it's interesting that I think ultimately there will be this point of change. Everyone knows that there's going to be a point of change. Sims 8 is, no matter what that version of Sims 8 is it another system from externally, whatever, but there is going to be a point of change. It's going to come one way or another, no matter how people feel about it. So everyone's going to have to start looking around and start viewing what they perceive as the right system for them. And hopefully they do look at it that way. What is the right system for my needs? as a school?
I think people interestingly always overestimate change in the short term and underestimate it in the long term as well. So like they've always over prophesied Sims is like failure for years. And I'm like, no, it's like fundamentally delivering. So it will be less probably change people think in the short term, but it will really accelerate. And when it does, it will just take off. And I think you'll have some people who are ahead of the curve and some people are behind it. And that's just a personal thing for schools and maths and, support partners and wherever they sit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some blockers in the short term to really make a big change, but I think in the long term, everyone knows it's going to have to happen. So everyone's going to have to get on the bus at some point, as it were.
Yeah.
Looking at that. Yeah, indeed. So where do you, so this is a bit more of a generic, maybe a bit more obtuse sort of type of question, but where do you see the MIS going in the future? Do you see them becoming more consolidated, so basically embedding more systems within them? So I know, like so if you look at Sims, it's got quite a big partner structure around it, because things like anything from assessment to communications to e-payments and so on. But then there are other MISs that basically have basically put all those systems, a lot of those systems already embedded within a single MIS. Do you see that to continue? Do you see HR systems going in, being sort of taken into these other MIS systems? Or
yes, lots there. So I think you'll start to see first, like without them, well, all MIS systems are now platform, so that's true. So platforms have to work with other people. So I think what you'll start to see is MIS systems going abroad. So you become platforms sometimes you'll be the platform for the whole country. We're already starting to see that. We work with the Isle of Man, and there's others that are coming along where smaller countries can put in an MIS and just use that for the infrastructure for their whole education system. And that means you can be more responsive to or agile into implementing and tracking data and policies. You don't need to have census, for example. So that's an interesting thing. MIS is a platform for like a country. That's starting to happen a bit more. I think when you start to do that as a platform, you start to think about what you can do with the data in the platform. So like benchmarking, we've got like the ASP, which isn't going to happen this year. No bad thing necessarily. In my opinion, we rely on it as well. But if you had an MIS as the platform for a country, or even if you just had a meaningful number, we have 1,000 schools, we can do benchmarking. It's nationally representative and it's live and it's more personalized and it's real time and it's school controlled. It's tailorable. So that's something that you get network effects of data when you're a platform.
Okay.
And you can start to be more proactive in how you serve up, how you use that data. It's not just for reflection once a year. It's for like recommendation of interventions, flagging social care issues, contextualizing performance. So I think the MIS has a really big role to do in that. Actually, the MIS then becomes kind of a school improvement platform as well, because you've got other people coming into the platform using it, like third parties, and it's transparent. So that becomes that.
Would the data be free? Sorry.
The data has to be free because you don't own the data. So it's not like we're a Facebook where you sign up and then the data is ours to sell to everyone. Like we cannot sell that data, and the school is the data controller. We're a data processor. So if the school tells us they want to share it with someone, they should be able to share it with someone. And actually, they should have more control in that. And we need to be help them to be the custodian of that. So like show them who they're sharing it with, like maybe some data security checks on all partners and so on. So you have that, and then as a platform, you also have integration partners. So regardless of whether you buy an HR system, build an HR system, you will need to integrate with an HR system and a finance system. So back office will be integrated. Like I think it's a bit of a fallacy to think you can build everything. Like I always think monolithic one-stop shop systems is jack of all trades, master of none, because you just can't build a couple of things that finance and MIS is completely different systems. Different stakeholders. You've got accounting practices in one, you've got education practices in the other, you've got teachers, you've got business managers, you've got CFOs, you've got and it just goes on. And then you've got some people putting an enormous amount of money into finance systems and MIS systems, so you're going to need to have twice the amount to put into both. And so I just think, as a platform, choose what you're going to do well and do that thing really well, whatever that is. And, for us, it's going to be data. and anything to do with like school operations that can transform how a school works. So certain things that wouldn't entail, certain things that would. It's quite a broad remit, but it gives us a bit of it gives us some flexibility, and it means our vision is ambitious. Like you can't transform a school by building a slightly better MIS, that's for sure. But you can by like changing a lot of the processes, like giving better data, making it more actionable. So yeah, I'm a pretty big believer in best in breed and being a great platform for all of those different actors, like and people and levels of the school system.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think if you become that sort of jack of all trades, as you said, then actually there are other companies that can do, if they focus on one particular area, they will do it far better than you. So I fully agree. I think, MIS is a platform where it enables innovation actually in some ways of all these other companies coming in and saying, actually, I can do, I don't know, an HR system better, or I can do, some form of something which, the MISs aren't delivering purposefully, not because they just sort of neglect, a certain area. Then I think I agree. But I think it's very, very important.
But you're going to see everyone try and bloat. That's just the sad fact of like what happens when systems are in their infancy. Everyone just builds on add-ons and add-ons and add-ons and add-ons, and then you get to a stage where it doesn't really work. So we're trying to be very careful on what to say no to. That's the biggest thing. To be good at one thing, you have to say no to a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's interesting. The only other sort of view on this, and I know I've had this conversation with Phil, which I'm more on the platform side. His view is very much, actually we need to make these systems cheaper, and actually the more we put into them, then the cheaper they become for the schools. But that's, yeah. So what do you think?
I think we both are. Well, they both have a point. It's just where you draw the line. So you'll draw the line on like monolithic platform to best in breed, like here, he'll draw the line here. So it's just shades of grey in between. So like, yeah, a good example would be we work with our safeguarding partners well, right? And we have a simple safeguarding solution, but we will never build a complex safeguarding solution. And that's because there's loads of money, loads of time, loads of expertise in those systems. Yeah. And so if you want something really simple, you could take it off the shelf. But actually, if you want something complicated, you should, and we do encourage you to upgrade to those systems. And we will always work. And that's a good example of where we've drawn the line. We haven't said zero. We've just said like the basic simple functionality, you can use this, but actually we recommend use. And that applies to lots of things in Arbor. And we'll always have payment. That's why there's always been this odd overlap sometimes between what an MIS does and what a partner does. And we're just trying to be explicit, like we will never build full functional modules in these areas. We might have really simple ones. So I think we're all agreeing, but we're just at different points on the spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. So regarding going forward, so we talked about whether we think the MIS market is going to be. So where do you see? So this is going to be a bit of a cheeky question, but where do you see Arbor in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see it against competition? Against just in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see it going? And regarding, I suppose, your competition, how would you respond to that competition? So do you see yourself in second? Do you see yourself in first? And,
I mean, yeah, that's hard for us to control. But I mean, I suppose our goal is always to build the leading cloud-based MIS certainly in the UK, and that's slightly bigger than England. So that's our goal. Who do we see? Who are going to be the threats? Well, there's going to be. You can look at the people who are doing well at the moment, and that's kind of us, ScholarPack, Bromcom, and then whatever happens with Sims is clearly going to be the big unknown. Sims 8 or new MIS from somewhere else or whatever. So that's the big unknown. All that means is it's probably going to, because there's more money going in, and you've seen like Pupil Asset get sold, you've seen ScholarPack get sold, and you're going to see a lot more investment in the MIS space. So it's going to get more competitive with higher stakes. That's a fact. That's good for schools. We talked about that, more choice, more innovation, more value due to competition and so on. So the sector wins. What you'll probably start to see is like, as the stakes get higher, competitors start to sharpen their swords a bit. So it gets a bit more pointy. So you'll see people copying features, copying brands, imitation, bad mouthing. We start to see that as well, as they feel threatened. So that's what kind of you'll see on the bad side. I think, what are we going to do? We don't engage in any kind of behavior like that. So we don't badmouth anyone. I've got a lot of respect for what Sims and Phil have done. I would never say a bad word, and led the way. Basically, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing unless Sims existed. So I can't. There'd be no way we can slag anyone off. I think we just keep on doing what we're doing, like hire great people, give them trust, support them to do their best work, make customers happy and successful. And basically, if you've got happy staff, really, really happy customers that are referring you and a great reputation, that compounds again over the next 5 years. That's unbeatable. If you've got really happy, sticky customers who are referring you to people, and your competitors haven't because they're bad mouthing you or they're copying you or something else, then I think that's just how you win. You just do a good job and let your values guide you on that.
And I guess it shows that you're a threat. I guess if they're bad mouthing you and being a bit more aggressive towards you, then in some ways, I suppose that shows that you're probably doing a good job. Yeah,
and bizarrely, and imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So it's all it is all good. I just think that's what you'll see, and again, I think it's probably net beneficial for the sector, and it doesn't change what we do. So that's probably it. It all sounds so simple when I say it.